Welcome back, everyone, to the Brain Soul Success Show. You are in for a real treat today. I have with me my dear friend, Debi Silber. And Debi Silber is the founder of the Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute. She's a holistic psychologist. She works with health and mindset and a personal development expert. She's the author of some awesome books. So she's the author of The Unshakable Woman and Hardened to Heal. Also, the Rebuild Your Roadmap, the author of Trust. Again, I remember that one. I love that one. And her podcast, From Betrayal to Breakthrough, is also globally ranked within the top 1.5% of all podcasts. Her recent PhD study on how do we experience betrayal made 3 groundbreaking discoveries, and you guys are going to hear about this today, and it's just so powerful, that changes how long it takes to actually heal from betrayal and to regain trust again. So we'll dive into that on that trust issue. I know you've also been on Fox and CBS and the Dr. Oz show, right? And TEDx twice. And she's an award-winning speaker, a coach. She's dedicated, very dedicated, compassionate woman here, dedicated to helping people move past betrayal and other blocks in their lives, preventing them from having that good health, right? From having the work that they want and the relationships, the confidence, and the happiness that they desire. So Debi, Dr. Debi, it's so awesome to have you here with me today.
Thank you, my dear friend. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm curious. Tell people how you even got into betrayal. Why betrayal? Why did you start working with that?
That's not the kind of thing where you say, I think I want to study betrayal. No, it doesn't really work that way. You study because you have to. I mean, I've been in business over 30 years, health, mindset, personal development. And then I had a really painful betrayal from my family. Thought I did everything I needed to do to heal from that. And then it happened a few years later. This time it was my husband. That was the deal breaker. Anybody who's been through it, it's the most soul crushing, heartbreaking experience ever. I looked at the 2 experiences thinking, well, what's similar to these 2 of me, but what else? And I looked at it and I was like, I never really took my own needs seriously. Boundaries were always getting crossed. And I'm one of those people that really believe if nothing changes, nothing changes. So here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business, and I decided to go back for a PhD. And it was because a book wasn't getting me out of this jam. I needed a whole PhD in it. And it was actually in transpersonal psychology, the psychology of transformation and human potential. I was changing so much, I didn't quite understand what was happening. He was too, wasn't ready to look at that. And then it was time to do a study. So I naturally studied betrayal. And honestly, I studied it just for my own personal, to get me out of this. What holds us back, what helps us heal, and what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive. That study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my family, my work, my life.
Oh, that's really, really awesome. So it was from your own personal experience of a betrayal that led you down that path of really studying that. And then tell us then, what were those 3 discoveries that you found in that study?
The first discovery was I had a feeling betrayal was a different type of trauma compared to death of a loved one, disease, natural disaster. I had been through death of a loved one. I'd been through disease. And I was like, betrayal feels different for me. I didn't want to assume it was the same for all my study participants. So I asked them, if you've been through other traumas besides betrayal, does it feel different for you? Unanimously, they said, oh my gosh, it's so different. And here's why. Because it feels so intentional, we take it so personally. So the entire self gets shattered and has to be rebuilt. Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. When you lose someone you love, for example, you grieve, you're sad, you mourn the loss. You don't necessarily lose your ability to trust. You don't question the relationship. You don't question your sanity. With betrayal, you do. So the invitation in, let's say, post-traumatic growth is to rebuild your life. But with betrayal, not only is it a question of rebuilding your life, it's also rebuilding the self. So because it's a different type of trauma, it needed its own name, which is now called post-betrayal transformation. the complete and total rebuild of your life and yourself after an experience with the first discovery was that betrayal is a different type of trauma.
Okay, awesome. So you really defined it differently than other kinds of betrayals because of how it affects the self and how it affects rebuilding your life.
It is definitely a different type of trauma. And anybody, if you've been, anybody listening, if they've been through,
Mm-hmm.
let's say death of a loved one, and then betrayal as well, you miss that person, but you don't question the whole relationship. You don't look at it like, where was I during this time? The love was there. With betrayal, it shatters everything. And because of that intentionality, because it feels so intentional, all of the aspects of this self that were shattered, they all need to be rebuilt. And when they are, it gets rebuilt into something so much better. But yeah, that was the first discovery.
So that's the first discovery. Okay. And how is betrayal different than rejection?
Rejection is something you feel when it's like an aspect of betrayal, but it's just one of those feelings where we take it so personally. But betrayal, the way I define betrayal really is, it's the breaking of a spoken or unspoken rule. And every relationship has them. And the way it works, though, is the more we trust and the more we depend on that person, the deeper the betrayal. So, for example, a child who's completely dependent on their parent, and the parent does something awful, that's going to have a different impact than, let's say, your best friend sharing your secret, your coworker taking credit for your idea. Still a betrayal, different level of impact. So rejection is something that we feel, a part of betrayal, but betrayal is really the breaking of that spoken or unspoken rule.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Okay. And so what was the second discovery then?
The second discovery was that there's actually a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal, it's now known as post-betrayal syndrome. So we've had easily 95,000 plus people take our post-betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling. What's so interesting about that, and I'm happy to share the stats. First of all, we've all been taught time heals all wounds. I have the proof that that's not true. There's a question on the quiz that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? Louise, people say things like, my betrayal happened 40 years ago and I can still feel the hate. Yes. My betrayal happened 35 years ago. I'm still unwilling to trust. So we know that until and unless you deliberately and intentionally heal it, it will follow you around like a shadow, impacting everything you do. And happy to read some stats if you want to hear them.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the stats. And then my little wheels are going because I clear blocks in the spaces of the brain. So I clear those emotions that were the 40-year ago kind of thing. So what I do know is it's very possible to do that very quickly when you do it at the brain soul level. And so people don't have to hold that betrayal or the hurt or whatever it is, 40 years,
And think about it. Look at the work you do that saves people from, let's say they've been struggling for, decades, and that it can be eliminated. When people don't realize it's in there, it's in them, and it stays with them, they go an entire lifetime. And everything they do, everything they think, every action they take is affected, because if they didn't have the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms, it would be a very different life.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
Yes.
So this is men, women, just about every country's represented. Ready? 78% constantly revisit their experience. 80% feel, 80% are hypervigilant. That's exhausting. 94% deal with painful triggers. And those triggers can take you down.
Wow.
The most common physical symptoms. 71% have low energy. 68% have sleep issues. 63% have extreme fatigue. Their adrenals have tanked. 47% have weight changes. In the beginning, maybe they can't hold food down. Later on, they're using food for comfort. They're emotionally eating. 45% have a digestive issue. And this could be anything: Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, you name it. The most common mental symptoms: 78% are overwhelmed. 68% are unable to focus. 64% are in shock. 62% can't concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate. You're exhausted. You have a gut issue. You
Sure.
still have to raise your kids. You
Mhm.
still have to work. That's not even the emotional issues. Emotionally, 88% experience extreme sadness. 83% are very angry. And you can go back and forth between those two emotions all
Mhm.
day long, and that's exhausting. Um, let's see. 80% are stressed. No, 79% are stressed. 80% have anxiety, just a few more. This one got me. 84% have an inability to trust. Think about
Oh,
what
of
life looks like
course.
if you have
Yes.
an inability to trust.
Yeah.
82% find it hard to move forward. Oh, this one too. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 90% want to move forward, but they don't know how.
It really is then about giving. Those are amazing statistics. Thank you for sharing that with us. Wow. I look at how we're all emotional beings. We're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and we have an energetic field. And I know that when I found that if you do all those steps together is when you get the biggest result. And, really working on clearing all that old betrayal, rejection, hurt, anger, all those emotions you just described, because that is what gets buried in the body and causes those digestive issues and causes that ill health and the adrenal fatigue and everything else. So yeah, it encompasses all areas of the body, mind, spirit.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
think about it. You're walking, let's just take a digestive issue, right? 45% of everyone betrayed has a gut issue. So you can go to the most well-meaning, amazing gut experts. We know many of them, right?
Yes.
If unless you get to the root that it's the betrayal that's at the cause of it, you're hacking away at the symptoms. And what's even worse is you start spending your time and energy and money going to doctors, healers, coaches, therapists to manage a stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. At the root of it is this unhealed betrayal. So
Yes.
that's the driving force between all of these symptoms, and that's what needs to be addressed. The good news is we can heal from all of it, which was the third discovery. Happy to talk about that if you want to hear.
That was my next question. I was like, okay, well then how do we heal from betrayal? What have you found that works?
Yeah. So this for me was the most exciting out of the three discoveries. And what we learned was while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people do, if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal, I mean those symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome that I just shared to this completely rebuilt place of post-betrayal transformation, we're going to go through 5 proven predictable stages. The order doesn't change. We don't leave them out. What's even more exciting about that is we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every one of those stages. And we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Healing is entirely predictable. And happy to go through the stages if you want to hear them.
Yeah, I would love to hear them. Go a little closer to your microphone though.
Sure.
Yeah, that's actually much better. Yeah. So
Good.
share those stages with us. Yeah, we'd love to know how do you get, because oh my goodness, people listening. I mean, if I think about it, I mean, I don't know the statistics. You just shared them with us. But even if I just think about it, everyone I work with has had some kind of betrayal at some point in their life. Or rejection, maybe, or something like a rejection, a hurt, betrayal, and anger, or whatever.
You're so right. And here's the thing too about those stats. You didn't hear me say one thing, 20%, 30%. Those numbers are super high.
Yeah.
They're also not necessarily from a recent betrayal. So imagine this. Think about it. It's like, let's say your parent did something awful when you were a kid. Let's say that girlfriend or boyfriend who broke your heart in high school. That person may not know, care, remember. They may not even be alive. And here we are walking around with symptoms today because of something that happened decades ago. That's what happens when we don't move through the betrayal. That's what happens when they don't work with you to clear all those symptoms. It stays in the body and in the mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it does stay. I see that a lot. I'm so surprised sometimes when I'm working with people and we find something that's really big at age 3 and that person is 60.
Yeah.
Right? And they've been carrying it that long, or sometimes I even find ancestral programs or patterns of a
Yeah.
fear or
Yeah.
betrayal or rejection or whatever. And I'm like so surprised there too, because when we look at that great great grandmother kind of energy and whatever happened there and clear it, wow, it changes everything for that person.
Absolutely. And I remember you did something on me where we found it was generations. And I
Hmm.
was sort of here to break the chain. And,
Yes.
clearly look at the work I'm doing, so it's really true. And this is why some of these things repeat themselves, because nothing's been changing. It's like if
Right.
nothing changes, nothing changes. And when we unearth this and realize what's at the root, we could do something about it. Yeah. So the third discovery, this, like I said, was the most exciting, and it's the 5 stages. So stage one, this is actually before it happens. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, what I saw with everybody, me too, was a heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing, and kind of
Okay.
neglecting or ignoring the emotional and the spiritual, feeling and being. Well, if a
Mm.
table only has 2 legs, it's easy for that table to topple over. That's us.
Sure.
Stage two, shock, trauma, D-Day, Discovery Day.
Hmm.
This is by far the scariest of all of the stages. And it's the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. So, right here, you've ignited the stress response. You've gotten the news that forever changes your life.
Hmm.
You're headed now for every single stress related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a complete and total state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot wrap your mind around what you just learned. This makes no sense.
Okay.
And your worldview has just been shattered. Your worldview is your mental model, the rules that govern us, that prevent chaos. Trust this person, don't go there. And in one earth shattering moment or series of moments, every rule you've been holding to be real and true is no longer. The bottom is truly bottomed out on you, and a new
Hmm.
bottom hasn't been formed yet. So you could see this is terrifying.
Hmm.
I remember one of my study participants saying, you know what it feels like? It feels like every negative emotion you can imagine, getting punched in the gut and losing a child in a crowd all at the same time.
Oh, that's a good description.
Right? It feels
Yeah,
like that.
because it's really hard to define those emotions. We can talk about shock and trauma, we can talk about it, but feeling it is different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You'd grab hold of anything or anyone to stay safe and stay alive. And that's stage three. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most
Mhm.
practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this? Who can I trust? But
Mhm.
here's the trap though. Stage three, by far, hands down, is the most common place we get stuck. Here's why. Once we've figured out how to survive our experience, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where we just came from, we think it's good. And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we don't know that there's a stage 4 or stage 5. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. But because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we plant roots here, we park here. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And we plant roots here, and 4 things happen. The first is we start getting, and I know a lot of your clients are in this space, we start getting all those small self benefits. We get our story. We get to be
Oh,
right. Ooh, we
sure.
love our story.
Uh-huh.
Right? We get sympathy from
Uh-huh.
everyone we tell our story to. We get a target for our anger, things like that. And on some level, we're not getting much else. So we think this is good. So we plant deeper roots. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And now, because this is where we're spending our time, well, now the mind starts going to work, and we start thinking things like, well, maybe I'm not that great. Maybe I deserved it. Maybe this, maybe that. So we plant deeper roots. Now, because
Oh,
these are the thoughts we're thinking, you know all about energy. This is the energy we're putting out. Well,
yes.
like energy attracts like energy. So now we start calling situations and circumstances and relationships towards us to confirm this is exactly where you belong. The like the misery loves company group, they find you now. That lame
Right.
support group that keeps you stuck, you join it now. Here's where actually, and I've seen this so often, we will sabotage our healing because we would rather stay with the known familiar, even if it stinks. So
Oh,
we
I've
find
seen that a
ourselves,
lot. Hmm.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
And so here we are on this growth trajectory where we're moving through the stages, but we don't know what to expect or what we'll find once we start healing. So we stay with that betrayer. We stay with that gossipy, lame group that's just keeping you stuck. All those kinds of things. It gets worse, but I'll get you out of here because it feels so bad, but we don't know there's anywhere else to go. Right here, we resign ourselves. We're like, this stinks, but I have to get through my day. I mean, I have to work. So, right here, we start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy. And think about it. You do this for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. I can see someone 20 years later and say that drinking you're doing, that emotional eating you're doing, whatever it is. Do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal, Louise? They would look at me like I'm crazy. They would say that happened 20 years ago. All they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. That
And
makes sense?
stay there. Totally, totally. And again, I see this. This is like human nature. This is what people do. But they don't even know that they can heal. They don't know that they've buried it so long ago, like you said, 20 years ago, whatever, that they don't even know it's there anymore.
And they assume the symptoms they have, the life they have, the lack, whatever it is going on in their lives, they assume that it's got to be because of something else. It can't possibly be from that betrayal years ago, but it is. But it is.
Yes, it
And
is.
I mean, that's why I wrote From Hardened to Healed. Trust again moves you through the 5 stages, but Hardened to Healed, like everybody was in stage 3. So that book is just for stage 3ers. I'm like, you've been through the worst of it already. Why are you stopping before before the transformation? You owe it to yourself to go through the rest of the stages. So anyway, if you're willing to let go of the small self benefits, grieve, mourn the loss, bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. Right there in that decision, you're turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but you just stopped the massive damage you've been creating in stages 2 and stage 3. Stage 4 feels like if you've ever moved, and I know you have, if you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, all your stuff's not there. It's not quite cozy yet, but you're like, okay, we can do this. We got this. It feels like that. But what's so interesting about stage 4 is, think about it. If you did move, you wouldn't take everything with you. You don't take the things that don't represent who you want to be once you're in that new space. And what I found was there's one spot moving from stage 3 to stage 4. If your friends weren't there for you, you don't take them with you. If they're gossiping, that low energy, that just taking and not giving, you have outgrown them right here. And I hear this all the time. People say, what the heck? I've had these friends 10, 20, 30 years. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise, they don't come. You're deliberately and intentionally creating this new life based on what you're ready for and who you're ready for now. Really common to see as we enter into stage 4. Anyway, when you've settled into this new space, you've made it kind of mentally cozy and home, you move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise, things like that. You didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. You were surviving. Now you do. The mind is healing. You're making new rules. You're making new boundaries based on the road you just traveled. And you have a new worldview based on everything you see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of that table, in the beginning, it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
I love those 5 stages. And as you're talking about that, I'm thinking of people that I've worked with, and I can see the stages that they've gone through. And I can see my own stages too, when I was healing from, all my autoimmune stuff. So absolutely. What's interesting though is I love all that, but I still kind of want to know, Debi, how do you get people through those stages?
Yeah, I would say, people ask me all the time, how long does it take? It has so much less to do with time than willingness.
Okay.
Willingness is the needle mover, because if you want to hold on to your story and everything else, you will. Actually, let me answer it this way. There were 3 groups in the study that did not heal. The first was, this was the group, they had their story, they were sticking with it. That's what they had. The second group, this was the group that was numbing, avoiding, distracting. It may have made the day a bit easier to get through. Like they ran to the doctor who put them on a mood stabilizer or anti-anxiety med. They would numb. And, it made the day a bit easier, not without a price. They didn't heal. The third group, this was the group where the betrayer had very little consequences. So whether it was out of not wanting to break up a family, fear of change, fear of the unknown, financial fear, religious reasons, that was a big one. They did everything they could just to turn the other cheek, look the other way. I saw 2 things with this group. Number 1, further deterioration of the relationship. And number 2, this group was the most physically sick, because your broken heart can't handle that. But people are so afraid of the death and destruction of the old. That's the only way you birth the new. Whether it's just to close the loop on my story, whether, healing and rebuilding is always a choice. Whether you heal yourself and move on, that's what I did with my family. It wasn't an option to rebuild with them. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you rebuild something from the ground up, brand spanking new, with the person who hurt you. And that's what I did with my husband. So not long ago, as 2 totally transformed people, we married each other again.
Oh, I think that's so beautiful. And I'm curious again, how did you do that? I mean, I know you worked through the stages and stuff, and you said it's willingness, because you got to look at the story and then change it, but it's still easier to talk about than to do.
Ooh, and here's the thing, I have lost loved ones. I was in the ICU for 11 days. Nothing was as hard for me as healing and rebuilding with my husband, because forgiveness is just a word until you do it.
Yes. Yeah.
That was the hardest thing. And just even your, like I said before, the shattering of the self. And understanding that it truly has nothing to do with you, although you are the direct recipient of this heartbreak. It is a reckoning. It is a complete reckoning. And you're looking at everything. You're looking at all of it. You're like, where was I when I thought we were experiencing this one thing? And where were you? And so there's so much to move through. And I'll tell you, betrayal shows you who someone truly is. It also has the opportunity to wake them up to who they temporarily became. And I have seen this over and over and over again. And we have a rebuild program for the betrayer. And I have seen where these are people who they blew up their lives. They've shattered the heart and trust of the very person or people that they love the most and love them the most. And they're willing to, really redo it all to become someone they're proud of. I mean, and that's what my husband did too. I was like, okay, I guess I'm just a single mom now, and I'll figure this out. And that's what happens. But the betrayer has an opportunity to do the same. And then you come back at if that's a possibility, if that's what you want, at a very, very different level. And I'll tell you, because I imagine your audience can really relate to this. Here's the spiritual side of it. Trust is completely and totally shattered, so people in the study gravitated more towards whether it was the spiritual side of their religion, or they abandoned religion completely, or they just felt this need to rebuild trust. Well, that was the same for me. So I remember meeting with an intuitive coach who's since become a dear friend, because you just feel like, okay, something other than me has to know what's happening here. And I remember going into her office, and I just walk in and she starts laughing. I'm like, why are you laughing? Now she didn't know me. So I'm like, oh my gosh, you two planned this. I was like, what did you just say? She's like, and she did not know my story. Yeah. He needed something so catastrophic to crash and burn so he could be the husband, father, friend he's supposed to be. You needed to crash and burn so you can really heal and come from this deep place of knowing. You're going to have an institute. You're going to have these books. You're going to have this following all around betrayal. And I'm like, you're crazy, lady. So you never know. She said it was a soul contract.
Absolutely. I totally get that. I totally believe it, but I just want to honor you for the work that you're doing too, and regaining that trust. And also getting your husband to do that. So I guess that's the other question that some people probably do ask you, Debi. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this betrayal person that I deeply love? How can I get them bought into healing themselves too, if they don't want to? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. And here's the thing, you can't. Okay. It is a very solo journey. And when I said betrayal will show you who someone truly is, I mean it. The person who, when it comes to reconciliation, that has so much to do with the other person, because forgiveness is on you, that's always in our best interest to do. But when it comes to reconciliation, why in the world would you choose to reconcile with someone that is not taking ownership, that has no deep remorse, regret? What are you signing up for again to say yes to that? And the easiest way I can explain it is with this analogy of a brick wall. I look at trust like a brick wall. Every opportunity a person has to show that they're trustworthy, that's one brick in that brick wall. And that's why trust takes a long time to build, right? Mm-hmm. Now imagine in one earth-shattering moment, the person who built the brick wall shatters the whole thing. Mm-hmm. You as the betrayed can look at the rubble of bricks and say, I don't have the least bit of interest in watching that thing get rebuilt. However, if you choose to be a part of this, your role as the betrayed would be to watch the brick wall be rebuilt. The person who shattered it has to be a really good bricklayer. And it goes back the same way it went up the first time, brick by brick by brick. Every opportunity, they have to show that they're trustworthy, one brick in that brick wall. But this is what I see. The person who built the brick wall shatters it. They don't really have much of an interest in rebuilding it. So the person who's been betrayed, they're like, fine, I'll rebuild it. No, that's why they never feel safe. That's why they always feel anxious. That's why, betrayal can happen again and again and again. It's not their job to fix. That makes sense?
Totally, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, and again, it takes two to tango. It's not one person's. Yes, the first thing you want to do is heal thyself. And right? So heal thyself. We're only responsible for ourselves. The best relationships I see is when there's an I and an us. My cousin Vicky and Uncle Gary, they had their little things they both did, their hobbies, and they camped together out of VW Bug. They had an us, I mean, like they're just, so it's each individual's personal responsibility, as well as coming together and rebuilding that wall again, or whatever that is, that trust again together, that wall. Yeah,
exactly. But people are so afraid of outgrowing their partner that they don't do the work to grow. And it's such a shame, because I look at it like it's like, imagine a Lego, my kids used to love Legos, a Lego structure sitting in the corner of a room. It's not good. It's just there. Right. And then imagine the whole thing is just, all those pieces. The idea of once you've been betrayed, you don't have to put it back the same way it was. You're looking at all the pieces. You may say, I don't want to use that one. I don't want to build it that way. I want this. I want that. Why in the world would you build the same thing? It's an opportunity to just create something so different. That's the opportunity. And when you do, it's a completely different experience. And just this morning, because we have programs for the betrayed and the betrayer, and I was working with our betrayers. They have a program where they meet with me on a group call. And one of them, I give them the roadmap. I tell them what to say, what to do, what not to say, what not to do. And I gave this one guy, he was like, "Ooh, that's good. That's good. That's good." And then I hear from his wife, who's mentioned to one of our certified coaches within the community, he is just really stepping it up. I can't believe what I'm seeing in this man. And I'm like, oh, that's doing the work. That's creating something so different. That's the opportunity.
That's the opportunity. Absolutely. Well, that's a transformation. You know, anytime we hit those road bumps in our life, whether it's a betrayal or we lose somebody or whatever's going on, it's an opportunity for us to transform. I always kind of like use my hands. It's a higher level. I kind of put my hand up here and go, hey, we're reaching a higher spiritual plane, a higher level in your life. And, you know, and those speed bumps, those road bumps are an opportunity to do that.
Exactly.
So it is an opportunity.
Exactly.
What's a tangible thing that you like? Maybe you said to this gentleman, give us a tangible thing that we can do to help trust again.
Yeah. You know, I will give you a 4-step process. How's that? You know, I think what people often do is they're so quick to want to trust that person again or somebody going forward again, and they really miss the whole foundation. And until and unless that's rebuilt, it's shaky and unstable. So the first thing I always suggest is rebuild your foundation. Trust has been so completely shattered. Start at the very basic level. I'm talking like, will the sun rise? My trust is so shattered, I don't even know. Well, get outside every morning, take a look, and confirm it until you can, right? Now you have a foundation upon which to stand. Once you can trust in that, go to the next level. And the next level is trusting that wise inner guide, trusting your gut, trusting your intuition. And this is, you know, like let's say, you know, you see your dog wagging his or her tail, you know, you see 2 babies giggling, whatever it is. How do you feel? How does that make you feel? Does it feel expansive? Where do you feel it? That represents trust for you. And then lock that feeling in. How does, then go back to D-Day, go back to when you knew someone was lying to you. How did that feel? Where did you feel it? Lock that in. And then as you go about your day, when you're having an exchange with someone, which does it feel closer to? You know, strengthen that intuition again. You'll feel a sense of safety and security growing. Once you have that, take it to the next level. Learn to trust yourself again, because we always lose trust in ourselves because we say, why did I not see? How did I not know? Right? So we need to rebuild trust in ourselves. So to do that, give yourself small little tasks and do them. I'm going to drink that glass of water, and then you do. I'm going to do that workout, and then you do. I will not call my ex, and then you don't. Whatever it is for you. And you're showing yourself your word is law. If you say something, you mean it. And now you feel this real sense of safety and security. From this place, slowly, cautiously, carefully, start trusting in others again.
Okay, those are great tangible steps. Absolutely. Go back to the basics, the very, very basics. And what I also heard you say there, and I know this is what I love to do with people, is clear all those blocks and all those layers so that they can get back to that self-trust, but that intuition. So usually people, when they go through the brain system, their intuition raises and then they trust it more. And so now they've got that gut feeling. So it does go back to that self-trust and that intuition.
Exactly. And our gut is, you know, so much more on point than our mind can ever be.
Absolutely. It's our connection. It's our connection to God, spirit, whatever God is for you. That's all intuition is. You know, when I first started doing biofeedback years ago, I was kind of really surprised because I would watch people come back after 3, 4, 5 sessions. And I was just learning all this. This is 20, 23, maybe 24 years ago. And they would come back and they'd be more intuitive. And they'd say things to me like, you know, hey, and they also were more relaxed about life. Like I had to take my mother-in-law to the doctor and she didn't bug me. You know, like stuff like that. They would like be more relaxed, but they also were more intuitive. And at the time, I thought I wanted to create a bumper sticker that said, the path of healing anything is following your intuition and trusting it. And I still think that'd be a great bumper sticker. What do you think?
I think I'd put it on my car if you had it.
Yeah. So so important. Such important information. This is just really, really spot on, Debi. The work that you're doing in the world and working with people with betrayal and the betrayers and helping them heal their lives. Wow.
Thank you.
It's really good. Really, really good work. Really good work.
People,
yeah.
You know, if they understood those 5 stages, they'd never spend all that time in stage 3.
Right. Right. And see, people need to know that. They don't know this.
They don't. And that's why I'm so grateful people like you give people like me a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. You do need. Yeah, absolutely. This has been really, really stunning. Now I know you have a quiz too that you give people so they can at least have a place to start, right?
We do. Yeah, we have a few. We have the post betrayal syndrome quiz, so you will see the symptoms lingering that you're assuming, oh, it's aging, oh, it's a stressful, job. No, it's not. It's your betrayal. And we have our healed or hardened quiz, which will tell you what stage you're in.
Oh, that's beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Okay, so we're going to post those links here for all of you. Hey, and when you're not working at the PBT Post Betrayal Institute, what does Debi like to do in her free time? Give us a little peek into your world.
Yeah, the PBT Institute. That's really where I spend most of my time. But I have the kids, and now there are two girlfriends added to it, and we are just and with my husband in this very new relationship, we are just having so much fun. We went to Italy not long ago, and it was 10 of us, my in-laws, all of us. Like we're making up for a lot of lost time, just having just so much fun.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's so wonderful. Awesome. And what about a great self-care tip? What does Debi do to take care of herself?
Yeah, I purposely wake up early before, anybody else is up, and that's my time just to either journal or meditate or just be. And then of course, eating well and exercising and trying to get enough sleep and that kind of thing. And I bounce back and forth, between both coasts every couple of weeks. So, I'm sure my circadian rhythm isn't the way it's supposed to be all the time. So I really try to prioritize sleep, but really that connection in the morning is so important. And my husband and I have we call it coffee time, where we just play with the dogs, sit and have coffee every morning, and just start our day like that.
Oh, how beautiful. How beautiful. And this is the Brain Soul Success Show. So give us a brain tip, maybe related to everything we talked about here. What would be one brain tip you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, I would say, it's important to always look to grow, but also to question your beliefs. Just because a belief is there doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's good. It just means it's yours. And if you're willing to really confront what you currently believe, you may be a little more open-minded, and then you may say, well, you know what, I've outgrown this belief, it doesn't serve me anymore. Who do I want to be now? It's all open to us. So why would we stay sort of in that little box? I mean, everything is available.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. Because it's the self-questioning that's so important for our growth. I ask
Yeah.
questions all day long.
I
Like
think it's
literally,
really
I'm just asking questions all day long. And when I pull people through our process, it's all questions, it's NLP questions. So, you know, we're always asking questions. But yeah, what a great tip. Ask yourself those questions, question your beliefs. You can grow beyond that.
100%. And what
Yeah.
you find when you do, it's like it's a whole new world. You're like, wow, I was believing that all these years, but I've just outgrown it. Like an old coat you don't want anymore. Take it off.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. That is so awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing all of this. This was just amazing. And I love you so much, Debi. I love the work you're doing in the world. And gosh, I got to give you a hug in person at one point. We got to meet.
We do.
We
One of
do.
these
It's
days, my
just,
friend.
it's just so good. So have a great day, everyone. And remember, follow your heart, but take your brain with you.